The house had never been just a house to me. It stood at the end of a quiet street, wrapped in old maple trees and memories so thick they clung to the walls like breath on cold glass. Every brick carried a year of my life. Every floorboard remembered my footsteps when I was younger, stronger, and full of hope I didn't yet know would be tested so cruelly. I bought the land when my hands were rough and my heart was tired. Back then, my son was still small, his fingers always clutching mine as if the world might steal him away if he let go. His father had already walked out with promises he never intended to keep, leaving me with a child, a mountain of bills, and a future that felt terrifyingly uncertain. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I cleaned offices at night, served food during the day, and stitched clothes for neighbors when my eyes could barely stay open. There were nights I cried silently so my son wouldn't hear, pressing my face into my pillow and whispering prayers I wasn't sure anyone was listening to. But I never failed him. This house was built piece by piece during those years. Not all at once, no. I couldn't afford that. First came the foundation, then the walls, then the roof. Sometimes months passed before I could add a window or finish a room. I remember painting the living room myself, my son sitting on the floor, drawing pictures of what he said would be our forever home, and I believed him. When he grew older, when he fell in love, when he brought her home for the first time, I opened the door with the same heart I'd used to build the house, with trust, warmth, and hope. She was beautiful, polished, confident in a way I never had the luxury to be. She smiled sweetly that first day, complimented the house, admired the furniture. I remember how proud I felt when she said, "This place has so much character, that word stayed with me." When they married, I didn't hesitate. I told them to live here, no rent, no pressure, save your money, I said. Build your future. I thought that was what mothers were supposed to do. Step back, give generously, make space. At first, it felt like the right decision. But slowly, quietly, things began to change. She rearranged the furniture without asking. Throughout, things she said were old-fashioned. My framed photographs were moved from the living room to a hallway, then eventually into a box. When I cooked, she criticized the salt, the oil, the way I did things back in my time. Little comments. Sharp smiles. This house would look amazing with renovations. You must be relieved to have us here now. It's good we're modernizing things. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was being sensitive. That love meant compromise. My son grew quieter. He stopped defending me. When she interrupted me, he looked away. When she spoke to me sharply, he pretended not to notice. I told myself he was tired, busy, in love. I told myself many lies. The house no longer felt like mine, yet I still paid the taxes, the repairs, the bills. I cleaned, cooked, gave, and stayed silent. I believed patience would earn me respect. I didn't know then that some people mistake kindness for weakness. And I didn't yet understand that the very house built on my sacrifice would soon become the stage for my greatest humiliation and my awakening. The walls were listening. They remembered everything, and soon they would witness the moment I finally stopped giving. The night it happened began like any other family evening. Polite smiles stretched thin over unspoken tension. She had insisted on hosting dinner, hosting in my house. I stood at the kitchen counter, watching as she moved through the space as if it already belonged to her, opening cabinets without hesitation, rearranging dishes I had placed carefully for years. She spoke loudly, confidently, laughing as if the walls were hers to impress. This place really comes alive when you entertain properly. She said, glancing at me with a smile that never reached her eyes. I said nothing. The dining table was set with a bottle of red wine she had brought, expensive, she made sure to mention. My son sat beside her, nodding along, avoiding my gaze. I watched him carefully, searching for the boy who once held my hand in fear of the dark. He was there, but buried beneath comfort and convenience. Dinner unfolded with forced laughter and veiled remarks. She spoke about plans asterisk their asterisk plans, renovations, extensions, a future that did not include me. We're thinking of turning the spare room into a home office, she said casually. There's really no reason for extra rooms to sit unused. Unused? I swallowed. That room had once been my son's childhood bedroom. The walls still held faint pencil marks where he measured his height every year. I tried to change the subject. I asked about work, about their weekend plans. Each question was answered quickly before she redirected the conversation back to herself, to what asterisk she asterisk wanted. Then the wine flowed more freely. Her voice grew sharper. Her words lost their sugar. You know, she said, swirling her glass, it's not easy living with different generations under one roof. I felt my spine stiffen. Times change, she continued. Some people struggle to keep up. The silence at the table thickened. My son shifted in his seat but said nothing. I met her eyes. If something is bothering you, you can speak to me directly. She laughed. A short, dismissive sound. Oh, I am. Her gaze hardened. This house, this asterisk situation asterisk, gets not exactly ideal. We need space, independence, and frankly, it feels like you're lingering. Lingering. The word cut deeper than she intended, or perhaps exactly as deep as she hoped. I looked to my son. Do you feel this way? His mouth opened. Closed, he stared at his plate. That was when something inside me cracked. Years of patience, years of silence, years of swallowing my pride so others could feel comfortable. I stood up slowly, my hands trembling. This is still my home, I said quietly. I welcomed you here out of love. Her expression twisted not into guilt, but irritation. And we're grateful, she snapped, rising too. But let's not pretend this is temporary anymore. This house is our life now. Before I could speak, she lifted her glass. The world seemed to slow. The deep red wine left the rim and flew toward me, splashing across my face, my hair, my blouse. Cold, sticky, shocking. Gasps filled the room. The glass shattered at my feet. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I tasted bitterness, wine, and humiliation. My heart pounded so loudly, I thought it might burst through my chest. She stood there, chest heaving, eyes blazing. I'm tired of tiptoeing around you, she said. You act like a victim, but you won't let go. I wiped my face with shaking fingers. My son stood frozen. Did he rush to me? Did he defend me? No. He whispered her name instead. That was the moment I understood. I didn't cry, I didn't shout, I didn't retaliate, I simply nodded. The room waited for my reaction, for rage, for collapse. But something else had taken root in me, clarity. I walked away without another word, leaving the stain on the floor and the silence behind me. Upstairs I closed my bedroom door and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Wine, streaked, humiliated, awakened. That night I didn't sleep. I remembered every sacrifice. And for the first time I asked myself a question I should have asked long ago. Asterisk, why am I still giving to people who treat me like I am already gone? Asterisk, by morning I would have my answer, and soon they would have theirs. Morning arrived without ceremony. No apologies came with it, no soft knock on my door, no shame, filled eyes, no whispered regret. The house was quiet in that way only guilt can make it, heavy, cautious, pretending nothing had shattered the night before. I stood at the kitchen sink, washing the same mug twice, staring out the window at the garden I had planted years ago. Every flower had been placed by my hands, every root pushed into soil with hope. I realized then that I had done the same with people given them space to grow, never imagining they would choke me out instead. I didn't confront them. I didn't need to. Instead, I went to my room and opened the old metal lockbox I kept in the back of my closet. Inside were documents yellowed by time, deeds, permits, receipts, contracts, proof, solid, undeniable proof. The house was mine, always had been. Their names were nowhere on it, not even close. A strange calm settled over me, the kind that comes only after something inside finally dies. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the deed in my hands, and felt my heart steady. the humiliation of the night before no longer burned. It hardened. They thought ownership came from occupation. I knew it came from sacrifice. That afternoon, I made my first call. Then another, and another. A real estate agent came quietly. I asked her to be discreet. No signs, no announcements. I wanted this done cleanly, efficiently, without drama. She walked through the house with polite admiration, unaware she was stepping through the remains of a broken family. The price we settled on was more than fair. The market was strong. Fate, it seemed, was finally on my side. While they lived comfortably, unaware, I began to reclaim what was mine. I packed slowly, deliberately. I wrapped the china my mother had given me before she passed. I lifted the framed photographs from their neglected corners. I folded blankets I had sewn by hand during cold winters when my son was still a boy. I took the dining table, the same one where the wine had shattered. I would not leave a single memory behind for them to distort everything I had paid for, everything I had earned. All of it came with me. They noticed, eventually. What's going on? My son asked one evening, confusion flickering across his face as he watched movers carry furniture out the door. I'm organizing, I said simply. She crossed her arms, suspicion sharp in her eyes. Organizing what? My voice was calm. My life. The day the sale finalized, I was already gone. I left no dramatic note, no accusations. No, please. Just a single envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, a copy of the deed with my name highlighted, and a short message written in steady ink. Asterisk, this house was built with love, but love does not survive without respect. I am taking back what was never yours. I wish you well away from me. Asterisk, when they returned home that evening, the locks had been changed. The house they had claimed, redesigned, planned to inherit, it was no longer waiting for them. I imagined the panic, the shouting, the disbelief, but I wasn't there to hear it. I was driving away, my car filled with pieces of a life reclaimed, my heart strangely light for the first time in years. Revenge, I learned, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes it walks away without ever looking back. I didn't look back when the house disappeared in my rearview mirror. I thought I might cry, thought grief would rise up and choke me as I crossed the city limits. But the tears never came. Instead, there was a quiet stillness inside me, like a room finally cleared of noise. I realized then that I had been mourning that house for years already, long before I ever left it. My new home was small, modest. Sunlight spilled generously through the windows, and the air felt lighter, as if it carried no expectations. There were no echoes of raised voices, no tension clinging to the walls. For the first time in a long while, the space belonged only to me. I unpacked slowly, placing each object with care. The old photographs went back on the walls, front and center. The dining table sat near the window, polished and proud. Every item felt like a quiet declaration. Asterisk, I am still here. Asterisk, days passed. Then weeks. The phone rang often at first. My son's name lit up the screen again and again. I let it ring. When messages came, I listened but didn't respond. His voice sounded smaller somehow. Confused, remorseful, afraid. Mom, please call me. We didn't know you'd go this far. Can we talk? Farther, I thought. You thought I'd accept anything. Her messages came too sharp at first, then frantic, then dripping with false sweetness. You can't do this. We had plans. This isn't fair. Fair. I deleted them all. I wasn't punishing them. I was protecting myself. In the quiet of my new life, I began to heal. I took morning walks without rushing. I cooked meals I liked without criticism. I slept deeply, without the weight of waiting for the next slight. Slowly, I remembered who I had been before survival consumed me. One afternoon, I planted flowers on my small balcony. As I pressed soil around new roots, I smiled at the simplicity of it, how growth didn't require grand gestures, only care and boundaries. Months later, I heard through relatives what had become of them. The house they believed was theirs had vanished. along with the comfort they'd taken for granted. My son had changed quieter, regret etched into his face. The woman who once ruled every room now struggled to control anything at all. Consequences had a way of stripping people down to their truths. I felt no joy in their hardship, only peace. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted my living room gold, I poured myself a glass of wine. I held it up, studying the deep red color, and laughed softly at the irony. This time the wine stayed where it belonged. I raised the glass not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in honor of myself, to the woman who endured, to the woman who finally chose herself, to the woman who walked away and never returned. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. Some end with freedom, and that, I learned, is the sweetest closure of all.